Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are panicking. They are a sinking ship. We know that. There's a lot of things happening in Canada right now, especially when it comes to reporters and mainstream media. They are turning on Justin Trudeau. It's been a slow roll process, and maybe it's because there's more views or clicks or incentives, or there's less public backlash from supporting the Liberals and being pro-conservative or just criticizing Liberals. I don't really know. I'm going to be naive for a second and say that I think that they're doing the right thing and that they have good intentions, but time will have to tell. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage everyone to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. We are on route to 400,000 subscribers, which is insane for a channel here in Canada, but we are doing it, and I want to thank everybody who's gotten us this far. This is absolutely incredible. And speaking of getting us this far, I do have many other channels, right? There's House of Canada Clips, and there's also Mr. Sunshine Baby Extra. And so the link for that is down in the description or the pinned comment below. I would really like to encourage you guys to go and subscribe to this channel as well, because I don't have enough time in one video, and I don't like to post multiple videos a day on this channel. And so I take the extra content, which is why it's called extra, and I do put it on that channel. So there's no overlap. There's no, I'm posting stuff there and then posting it again here. If I do, it's for a very special occasion. I think I've done that once, and it was very clear as to the reason why. But now, without further ado, let's get into this video here. So we're going to take a look at an update in the polls. You get the Conservatives sitting at 217 projected seats, bottom line 190, top end 236. Everything is looking copacetic there. 99% likely winning the most seats and 99% likely of winning a majority government. And I do think that you're going to start to see that slow crawl above 217 seats. I think it's going to hit 225. I'm optimistic that it would hit 230, but I also don't want to be a little bit delusional. But you never know what could happen, because things are just not working out for Trudeau. Like, every time he opens his mouth, every time he appears in front of cameras, every time he does any announcement, anything, it's really backfiring. And it's not just Trudeau that it's backfiring on. There's other MPs, like the Liberals, are being just destroyed. They're being attacked by the media, and it's glorious. I can't help but smile. It really makes my day, and we're going to take a look at that footage today. But first, we have an update here from Wall Street Silver that says, amazing how the standard of living in Canada has gone down, but Trudeau started off with $4 million net worth and is now worth over $100 million. 100, according to the Toronto Sun. He's worth $100 million. Canadians' standard of living has declined to a level not seen for nearly 40 years. Wild. I don't understand how it's so profitable being prime minister. If you're able to get a net worth of over $100 million, I think a lot more people will be applying. Politicians historically don't get paid that much money. They get compensated quite well. They get a lot of perks for the job, right? They get a good pension, things like that. But they're also supposed to be helping Canadians, not destroying Canadians. Let's take a look at a recent press conference here, where this is a story I haven't covered. We're going to take a look at it later today, though, in this video. Don't worry, you got to stick around. You got to see the whole thing, folks. Don't jump ship off this video too fast. So Prime Minister Trudeau was asked about the accusations of Speaker Greg Fergus for being overly partisan. It was an unfortunate mistake. Now, there's going to be an actual explanation into this later on in the video from this clip. Let's take a look at what Justin Trudeau has to say about this.
The Speaker, Greg Fergus, has come under political attack again today from the Conservatives. They say a partisan message appeared on his website. Your party has now apologized for that, said it was a mistake. So I'm wondering, does this episode in any way shake your faith in Mr. Fergus as Speaker? And do you think it makes it harder for him to do his job?
No, it doesn't shake my faith at all. I have full confidence in Greg Fergus as Speaker of the House of Commons, as a thoughtful, independent-minded leader. The issue was dealt with, was addressed by the party and by the House leader. It was an unfortunate mistake.
There you go. So you might be wondering why they're talking about Greg Fergus again. What's happening? Folks, you're going to want to stick around, because I have a detailed video that we're going to watch at the end of this video as to what's going on with Greg Fergus. But let's get back to this question period stuff here for what just recently happened. Pierre Poilievre is asked if the Trudeau government plans to legalize hard drugs post-election. Deputy Prime Minister Freeland responds accusing Poilievre of wearing makeup. Very bizarre answer from Chrystia Freeland. This happened yesterday.
Think that you pay down debt by borrowing more, that you stop inflation by printing money, and that you fight the drug overdose crisis by legalizing hard drugs. So at least they're consistent in their irrationality, Mr. Speaker. But now they've been forced to backtrack right before the election on their legalization of hard drugs because Canadians are revolting against the policy. Today we have a motion that will be voted in the House to permanently ban hard drugs. Will this government vote for that motion, or will they admit that they plan to legalize drugs again after the next election?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader is wearing more makeup than I am today. Now, I think it's wonderful.
So then she got in trouble for that, which is very bizarre. Not that she got in trouble, but it's very bizarre that she thinks that that would be a good comment to make in the first place. If the roles were reversed, they would be crying misogyny. They'd be crying a whole bunch of, things. Oh, you're attacking women. You're a woman hater, blah, 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 blah. It's very, very weird. Double standard. The Liberals, they try to brand themselves as, inclusive, peaceful, nice people. But we're seeing time and time again, at least with the politicians, that they are nasty when they get angry, when they don't have the ability to regulate their emotions. Like, they're just nasty, nasty people that are hypocrites, and they cry victimhood instead of just taking the loss on the chin like an adult, and they try to whine until they get their way. But that only lasts for so long, and we're seeing the end of it right now. We're seeing what's crumbling, which is very weird because Justin Trudeau is going down swinging. He's not going down very easily. He recently was in Philadelphia speaking, and Trudeau says that misinformation and disinformation are the biggest threats to Canadian democracy. All right, let's take a look at this clip.
We're at a time right now where democracy itself is under significant challenges, and I can't be here in the birthplace of American democracy without reflecting a little bit on the fact that democracy didn't happen by accident. It didn't happen by accident because people came together to try and build it and create it and worked really hard at it. It didn't happen by accident, and it doesn't continue without effort. And I think one of the big challenges we have is we're taking things for granted. We're allowing misinformation and disinformation to infect our body politic and our citizens. And people are not seeing the way some of the building blocks of the freedoms and the successes that we've been able to build in two of the freest countries on earth, Canada and the United States, are now being challenged in pretty fundamental ways. And it goes with the time we're in, where the reality is this is an unbelievably consequential and stressful time for citizens. Whether it's the impacts of climate change, we've already started another wildfire season in Canada, so I apologize in advance if we give you another summer like we did last summer. I mean, it's funny, not funny, because the reality is extreme weather events.
That was a weird slip up, wasn't that? Where he said, we've already started another wildfire season. I don't know. Just maybe I'm looking into it, but that was a little weird. That's a little weird.
Whether it's wildfires or floods or droughts are beginning to convince even the largest climate skeptics that the cost of inaction on climate change is far greater than the cost of acting responsibly to build both resilience but also reduce our climate emissions as countries and as a world.
Look, I'm not a climate expert, but I do know that the Earth has its own rotation for climate, and things get warm, things get cold, and that's just, that's also our seasons, but that's also how historically things have happened. And when you look at the summer heat waves back from like the 50s and 60s and whatever, it wasn't really that much different than what it is now. The biggest difference especially with fires, is forest fires have always occurred in Canada. Always, always, always. The biggest difference is now we've made cities, we've made infrastructure in these, northern places across Canada. And the forest fires, when they naturally occur, and I know there's a lot of arson that happens, right? I'm not getting into that piece, but when forest fires naturally occur, or from, telephone poles or whatever it is falling down, when forest fires occur, they're happening where people are living. And that's what's kind of hitting the panic. Forest fires happen organically, just that's part of nature, right? And it doesn't become an issue until it starts to get close to our infrastructure. And that's just the organic stuff. Never mind all of the other shady things that are happening where there's, human caused fires by accident, of course, but also some that are on purpose. It'd be ignorant to deny that, since, there's a lot of evidence and also people that have been arrested from doing so. But nonetheless, let's get into the next video here. This is where the media is turning on the Liberals. So they are crying. Liberals are crying abortion, right? They're going abortion, abortion, abortion. Let's actually look at the original clip here, that True North clip. So Liberal MPs held a press conference suggesting Pierre Poilievre is infringing on women's bodily autonomy. But even the legacy media calls him out and accuses the Liberals of using abortion scare tactics as Liberal poll numbers drop. Let's take a look at the video.
I'm here representing the Women's Caucus and members of the Liberal Party, and we've sent a letter to the Leader of the Opposition asking him to be very clear with Canadians, and in particular with Canadian women, on what he would do to defend a woman's right to choose. We've seen that his caucus, there are many anti-choice caucus members. We've seen some of their actions recently, including MP Kathy Wagenthal, who at the pro-life rally held here last week said that women who have abortions end up needing redemption, forgiveness, and needing God. We as women want to know whether the Leader of the Opposition will ensure that his caucus does not put forward legislation that in any way impinges on women's rights and freedoms, in particular bodily autonomy.
His office has already said that.
One part is not clear. His office has said that they're not going to use the notwithstanding clause on abortion to regulate abortion. He said he's not going to legislate it, introduce it, pass it. So what part's not clear?
That's his government. There are ways that you can have private members' bill that are introduced as well, and the risk is still there. He voted against Morgentaler back in 2008 as person. I mean, he is, in every sense, that caucus and that leader has made women wonder about the risk that they're going to be taking with this leader. And I want him to come out and unequivocally say that they do everything to defend a woman's right to choose, that they will not allow their members to come forward with private members' bills and put forward bills that suggest that a fetus is a person, which is a backdoor way of, again, addressing this issue.
Is it he was here. The Harper government had 10 years. I know you weren't here. Many of us were. 10 years in power. They had 4 years as a majority, didn't move one bit. And they had private members who wanted to do things. Guys, you are all 30 points down in the polls. I'm looking at some of you will not get reelected if there was an election this fall. This is the most cynical play, to just throw the abortion scare tactic. Would you like to respond to that observation?
Absolutely. It's
Please.
Not a scare tactic. We've seen what's happened in the States. Do people really think Roe versus Wade would have been overturned? Do we think what was happening there was going to happen? I've been in the women's movement for over 50 years. It is not a scare tactic. Things are going backwards, not only in Canada, but around the world. And these are real risks for Canadians. We need to know very clearly that that party, policies put forth at their convention, individual members are not going to introduce things because we do not want to go the same way as the United States. So it is not a scare tactic. It is a very strong concern. And I may not have been here then, but I was other places working on women's rights, okay?
Okay, I'm going to pause it for a second here. If it's not a scare tactic, where the hell have you been? Where have you been? Seriously. You've had years to talk about this. If you're that big of a woman's advocate, then why haven't you been talking about this consistently? And you're waiting for your polls to be so shite that now you're pulling in the last Hail Mary that you possibly have. And it's not going to work. People are not falling for this crap. And if you are, bless your heart, honestly. But I can't believe that the mainstream media is now turning on them, literally called it a scare tactic. It's incredible. These liberals are so disingenuous. And also the fact, whichever mainstream media reporter said this to their face, you guys are 30 points down in the polls. Some of you are not going to be reelected in your own by-election. Like, what a thing to say. By the way, like, imagine to your face, someone says, yeah, you're not going to have your job for very long, right? Like, that's just incredible to see. And they're panicking. And again, no reaction to that. They were blank in the eyes. It's like their soul has been sucked out of them, right? The only reaction they have is to this triggering, controversial topic. That's it. They were just told to their face, you're not going to have a job soon. And they're like, well, we know. Oh, abortion, though. Let's get all fired up.
Okay, so do not use that as a reason why it's not scary.
Oh, my goodness.
Put it back the other way. The government hasn't also legislated to protect abortions either, right? So why doesn't your government introduce legislation to make it harder for that to get rolled back if there is a conservative government?
You do not want to legislate woman's body. You do not legislate woman's body. That is not you. Make sure that you have access to abortion. You don't want to legislate anybody's body, particularly a woman's.
Even if that is to protect the right to choose, like you're calling?
No, you don't want to legislate your ovaries, your uterus. No, that is not the way that you protect women's rights.
Yikes, it's just really not working out in their favor at all. Like they are losing in the polls. They're losing the trust of everybody. And everyone is turning on them. You got regular people, you got mainstream media, you have social media. Everybody is turning on them. And speaking of turning on them, I found this clip. It's old. It's over a year ago, but it's very applicable to today, where you have Sid from Breakfast Television, who had shit on Justin Trudeau, and he made a video where it almost looks like he's apologizing, but he doesn't. He doubles down and says, I will continue to shit on politicians if I want. Let's take a look at least part of the clip.
I want to say a couple things, because some people agreed with the critique, some people didn't agree with the critique.
Fair.
I am paid to tell you exactly what I'm thinking. I'm going to say that again for everyone in the back who's got some wax in the ear this morning. I am paid. I am not Melanie Ng. I am not Tammy Sutherland. I am not Faiza Amin, our incredible journalists on this show who play it down the middle and do it better than anybody. They look at me for something a little bit different. So I'm going to be brutally honest with you about a lot of stuff we see here. And quite frankly, I think that's why a lot of you watch this show. You can go to other shows and get other things. I want to be brutally honest with you. That's why I'm here. I'm not going to be here forever. I'm not naive. But as long as I'm in this, because the business is the business, and we know it. As long as I'm in this chair, that's what I'm doing. Okay? And if you want to say I am anti-conservative or anti-liberal or anti-NDP or anti-Green Party, sorry, the Green Party isn't that interesting to me, but the other ones. I got receipts on everyone on this show. I have ripped everybody. Because you don't watch all the time isn't my problem. I've ripped our mayor, who I kind of like.
Yeah, you do.
I like our mayor.
He loves you.
He loves rip me too. I got news for him.
He does. He loves
I don't know if you heard it. I've kind of ripped Doug Ford before on this show. I've ripped Justin Trudeau. I've ripped Omar Al-Gabra, our Liberal Minister of Transport.
Omar Al-Gabra. And he just goes on to say all the people that he's ripped. And you're seeing this more and more where the mainstream media is attacking Justin Trudeau, right, in some form or another. And then they are being attacked for criticizing the Liberal government, right, by all the left-wing nut jobs that watch these shows. Like, how dare you, go after them. And then they have to make videos like that. But he actually proceeds to not apologize. He sticks to his guns, and he calls viewers who are attacking him idiots. And that's kind of what's happening. And now there's a video, a very important video that I want to share with you. It's from Michelle Rempel-Garner, who explains what's going on with the House Speaker and why the Conservatives are trying to put forward a motion to get him to resign and be accountable for his latest ethics violations. Here we go.
Okay, I'm coming to you live from this back room here in the House of Commons. The chamber of the House of Commons is just on the other side. And I've got to tell you, something crazy is happening here. you need to share this video so that people who might not follow politics but care about democracy understand just how bad the situation here is in Ottawa and what needs to happen next. So the Speaker of the House of Commons has been essentially found guilty of doing more partisan activity after a bunch of other errors. And I want to explain to you why this matters and what happens next. So the Speaker of the House of Commons, for those of you who aren't familiar, is supposed to be like a neutral arbiter of the rules. They're not supposed to be partisan. They're supposed to make sure that the House of Commons functions, the rules are followed in a neutral, nonpartisan way. And in order for Canadian democracy to happen, that's a super critical role, right? Well, you'll remember like back a few months ago, the last Speaker of the House of Commons had to resign over an issue of a Nazi being recognized in the House of Commons. So he was replaced with somebody named Greg Fergus. Greg Fergus was actually the parliamentary secretary to Justin Trudeau. So a very partisan person who is now in the role. So he was elected into this role with like super crazy partisanship. Now, he's done several things, including kicking the leader of the opposition Conservatives, Pierre Poilievre, out of the House of Commons. And it gets worse today. So let me break it down for you on how we got to this point. So a few months ago, you'll remember that Greg Fergus recorded a video for a Liberal convention in his speaker's robes. That's super, when I say that, you understand how partisan that is, right? And he was actually found guilty of doing that. And then he said, oh, it was just a mistake. I mean, I didn't know, which I didn't buy. We thought he should resign over that. But nonetheless, the NDP, the Liberal...
Never mind that. He also kicked Pierre Poilievre out and made a mockery of our democracy here in Canada. That's insane. He's abused his power, and he consistently does to this day. He still mutes the microphone for Parliament, the floor of the House of Commons, as he chooses. And we pay taxes. It's our democratic right to see what is happening, what's being said. I understand if there's a heckler. I understand if there's a disturbance that's out of control of what the politicians are saying or doing. But when they're exchanging words and they get into some sort of heated debate, or they're yelling or whatever it is, and the House Speaker, okay, everybody calm down, let's take a break, let's take a breather. You're not allowed. At least you shouldn't be allowed to mute the microphone. So that alone is a massive abuse of power, and some form of punishment should be had from that.
Coalition partners, they kept him in the role. I don't understand why the NDP would do that. Like, come on. No, they propped up the government there. Okay. So then you'll remember that afterwards he went to Washington in his speaker's capacity and gave a speech reminiscing about how fun it was and wonderful it was to be a young Liberal. So he was talking about partisan activity at an international event in his role as a speaker after he did this thing. Okay. Then he asked a former Liberal MP to write an op-ed about him. Okay, so like this guy clearly has a history of partisanship, and you'll remember that then he kicked Pierre Poilievre out of the House of Commons a couple of weeks ago, which is kind of unprecedented. The speaker kicking the leader of an opposition party during question period out of the House of Commons. Now, today, and this is what I need you to share, after all of this, look at what happened. On the Liberal Party website, there is an advertisement for Greg Fergus. This is on the Liberal Party website. And let me read to you what the event details are. Okay? Let me read this to you. When Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives proposed reckless policies that would risk our health, safety, and pocketbooks, the Liberal team is focused on making life blah, blah, blah. So this is a partisan advertisement. It talks about an event being held by the Speaker of the House of Commons as being part of the Liberal team, and it actually openly craps on the leader of the opposition party.
Yeah, that shouldn't be allowed. Like, Greg Fergus is a Liberal MP, was a Liberal MP, and now he's a House Speaker. So he doesn't represent the Liberals. He doesn't represent the Conservatives. He represents what's supposed to be like the overlord, I suppose. It might not be the best way of putting it, but the overwatcher maybe is a better way of putting it, of Parliament. He's supposed to be neutral. He's supposed to be nonpartisan, and he just consistently is failing. And this is somebody who went into the position with ethics violations already, and since he's taken position of the House Speaker, he's had so many ethics violations. And how many is too many? I don't know. But I, for one, think that Greg Fergus should resign or should be suspended or without pay or whatever it is. And they should reflect a little bit more, because I know it makes a mockery of our system if we get rid of a House Speaker when we just got one, right, within the first year. However, he's not the right guy. He keeps failing. It has nothing to do with him being a Liberal. It's who he is as a person, his values. They're not good. He keeps fucking up. So I wish it was like a petition or something that we could sign or that I could share, so that we could try to get, hundreds of thousands of signatures for Greg Fergus to be resigned. If you know of one, please let me know down below in the comments. Or better yet, if you would like to see Greg Fergus resign or be fired, let me know down in the comments, folks. That's where we're going to end today's video. Thank you so much for watching. On your way out, I'd like to encourage you guys to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.